Good evening. You're watching The Big Story. I'm Shawn Yao.
And I'm Riza Diaz.
Tonight's big stories. President Bongbong Marcos says it again. His government is committed to modernizing the armed forces and making it, quote, world-class.
Now, the president's vow comes days after the Philippines stood before the United Nations to reject China's claim that Scarborough Shoal is theirs.
And back here in the Philippines, farmers are wondering where their share from the reduced tariffs on imported rice went. We will be discussing this and other agricultural issues with CNAG's Jason Cainglet later on. Right, big story for today, the AFP Modernization Act, which was enacted way back in 1995. But 3 decades later, the military strength of the Philippines, as measured via firepower, is still very much lagging behind other nations. In short, it is still a work in progress, as the Gen Z call it.
Right. Now, even the Marcos administration acknowledges that there is a lot more to be done for the armed forces. And the government says it will do everything to get the modernization campaign back on track. Here's tonight's big story.
Defense and security are top of mind this week for President Bongbong Marcos. In Camp Crame on Thursday, he sat down for a security command conference with the top brass of the Philippine National Police. Today, it's the turn of new officers of the Armed Forces of the Philippines to come to face with the chief executive. More than 600 of them just completed the AFP's Major Services Officer Candidate course. These graduates endured intense training for 1 year to be commissioned as frontliners of the Philippine Army, Navy, and Air Force. PBBM shared this guiding principle to the military neophytes.
In the face of evolving threats and modern warfare, innovation, technical expertise, and leadership rooted in service will be your most powerful weapons.
At the moment, tensions in the West Philippine Sea remain as one, if not the biggest, security threat to the country. This is why the president is making it his administration's priority to beef up the capabilities of the Philippine Army up to the par with global standards.
We will modernize your equipment, enhance your training programs, ensure that you are equipped to face challenges not just of today, but also of the future.
Meantime, amid a stormy political climate, class valedictorian Second Lieutenant Amel Empiso had a meaningful message.
We must uphold the high standards of discipline expected from us. We must be able to quickly grasp the military's chain of commands. Let us stand drumroad straight and doing the right thing to defend the Constitution that we hold dearly as patriotic citizens.
President Marcos expects nothing less than this commitment from the fresh batch of officers from the AFP.
Lagi natin alalahanin na ang bawat hamon ay bahagi ng mas dakilang layunin. Sa bawat hakbang, ang inyong serbisyo ay hindi lamang tungkulin. Ito ay panata para sa bayan. Isang handog para sa bawat Pilipino na umaasa sa inyong husay, tapang, dangal at malasakit.
Now, the Philippines has also issued a very strong rebuke of China as a superpower formally marked Scarborough Shoal as part of its territory. On November 10, Beijing submitted to the United Nations a nautical chart outlining the baselines of what it called waters that are historically theirs. This submission is seen as a response to Manila's enactment of the Philippine Maritime Zones Act and the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. A month later, on December 10, also before the UN, Ambassador Antonio Lagdameo defended the landmark maritime laws. He said these are aligned with the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. The permanent representative of the Philippines to the UN flat out rejected China's claim over Scarborough, also known here as Bajo de Masinloc, noting that it violates the UNCLOS and, quote, undermines the rules-based international order. Lagdameo stressed that Bajo de Masinloc is clearly within the Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ, of the Philippines, and as such, only the Philippines can establish baselines there. Let's try to make sense of this story some more with our guests tonight. We have Joining us over Zoom, maritime security expert Chester Cabalza. Welcome back to the big story, Chester, and thank you for taking our call on such a news day.
Good evening, Shawn and Riza. Thank you for inviting me to share some of my views with you.
Was this surprising to you in any way that China kind of countered? Do you also see that this is in fact Beijing's counter to the two laws that we passed? And I believe that was the last time we spoke after they passed the Maritime Zones Act and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act.
They've been resisting us in 2016. They thought that the legal approach would not be, of course, now for the Philippines, it was the best formula for us on how we would claim our sovereignty rights in the exclusive economic zone. And all of a sudden, China is doing the same thing, building up their own legal claims. And at the same time, they're doing what the Philippines has been doing in terms of our legalist approach. So I think China has learned a lot from the Philippines in terms of how they would build up also their legal narratives in the South China Sea, where in fact the Scarborough Shoal, which is one of the major dots in the triangular strategy from Scarborough Shoal to of course, to Paracels and to the Spratlys. They knew that this is something that they would really fight for the Philippines. And I think the Philippines is winning so far in terms of our legal claims to the Scarborough Shoal. At the same time, we have also fortified our cartographic maps because of the Velarde map. And at the same time, our lawmakers and the Filipino people are well aware now of the claims of the Philippines because of course we've been doing this for 8 years already.
Okay. Well, Chester, I guess as a follow-up to that, this was filed in the United Nations. So what's going to happen, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, is these baselines, so to speak, the coordinates and the charts will be published by the UN. Now, I'm assuming since that's the case, and we also filed our own baselines, right, and defined them, and that they will also be published as such. So what happens now is that effectively two countries rather, are laying claim to this area. Do you see this as a precursor possibly to China filing a case at the PCA or the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague?
Well, at least for the Philippines, we have a precedence ready because of the 2016 arbitral award. And at the same time, we have the baselines that we have filed so far from the United Nations will give us better chances. Unlike China, in which they've been doing only this lately. So even if both countries will claim, will file for the legality of the baselines, I think we have. I think that the twin laws that we have enacted recently on the Archipelagic Sea Lanes and the Maritime Zone Act will indeed push us further on our claims, given that of course we've been elevating our baselines law even in the past. So I think even if China will try to do the same thing, it will still be given to the Philippines, given that of course we've been fighting for rules-based norms, and this has become part of our narrative for the longest time.
Chester, what do you make of this move by Beijing, again, submitting their nautical chart to the United Nations? Is this significant? Because in the past, China does not heed, to anyone, including the United Nations. Now, to recognize the UN's intervention in this matter, what would that mean?
Well, they have realized that international laws are very important. Now they're learning. However, it may be late for for China to do so, but at least they're learning from the Philippines. What they're trying to do right now is to lobby their cause and strategic interest using lawfare, which the Philippines has been doing even before. But at the same time, let's not underestimate also these moves coming from China, because I think they are using their economic clout and diplomatic cards so far in engaging with the United Nations and at the same time getting the sympathy of the world. No, remember that China is a major power, but of course, given that this is an asymmetrical contest from David versus Goliath, we have shown to them that we are big and stronger when it comes to our legal approaches. But let's see what happens later on, because of course it's a contestation of legal approaches. But at the same time, it's good now for China that they're trying to lobby their cause using legal means. That means that they are learning from the Philippines and they are becoming civil because they are using international laws. And let's see what happens in the future, because of course, even if we have won the 2016 arbitral award, where we have seen in the past 8 years, the problem would be on the enforcement um, dimension of it. But we'll see how it will turn up in the future, because of course China is reversing the tide right now, because they're using also their legal spade in terms of their claims in the baselines of the Scarborough Shoal.
Okay, some pundits online, at least in some articles that I read, Chester, they seem to be saying that this move by China could be challenged by the incoming Trump administration. Do you agree with that line of thought? And also, if the new Trump or Trump 2.0 administration does indeed challenge China, what are the implications for us here in the Philippines?
So you see now the evolution of maritime security in this part of the world, and the global evolution of maritime security. We have to remember that the United States, under the Trump administration, is still not a member or a signatory of the UNCLOS. So I hope that when the Trump administration returns to power, and given that, of course, there is this contestation of hegemonic rivalry between the US and China, where legally speaking, China is a signatory to the UNCLOS, but sometimes disobedient to international laws. However, the United States has been supporting us um, legally, strategically. However, it's not yet part, or it's not yet a signatory of the UNCLOS. So I think this is some of the evolutionary movements that we are seeing right now on maritime security. Hopefully that China and the U.S. also will resolve these kinds of confusion and legal impediments. I remember that recently, yesterday or today, Trump has invited Xi Jinping also in his inauguration in Washington by January. So we'll see how these things will fall into more peaceful resolutions when it comes to the West Philippine Sea.
So you're really expecting this resolution that was passed all the way in New York and the United Nations to actually, kumbaga, have an effect on how things in the waters and the tensions, actual tensions in the disputed waters currently stand?
Yes, that's the reason why even there are many fronts when we fight. Definitely, in terms of the legal dimension, the Philippines has been winning so far, and I think that has been our strength against China. But of course, we are still not that strong when it comes to our military and strategic approaches. But of course, that's not the only solution when it comes to our West Philippine Sea conundrum. You need a lot of diverse and complex approaches and plans in order for us to maintain peace and order in the region.
Chester, let's just backtrack a little. China submitted its baselines to the United Nations in November, but doesn't
Right.
it seem that this submission flew over our heads, since this is now a formal territorial claim? Now, is this government, or our government, underestimating the impact again of this document? And what do you think, or how should we respond to it?
Oh well, of course, the China's submission to their baselines in New York is something that we have to watch out also, because of course even if I said earlier that we are winning so far legally speaking, because of the arbitral award that we have received since 2016, that doesn't mean that we are ahead of China. In other words, they are also challenging us. So it's like I think if I put it in a legal term, maybe it's like a motion for reconsideration for them. No, they're trying also to mount their own legal basis, following the procedures of international law. But of course, let's leave that up to our legal experts on how they would construe what the Philippines would do later on. But of course, nevertheless, we've been hearing from the government or from the Philippine government that Scarborough Shoal is part of the Philippines, and this has been we have a legal and historical basis on it. So we have seen that in the Murillo Villar map. There were ethnographic and legal basis on the Scarborough Shoal that it has been part of the Philippines, and it's part of I think that was the start of our legal saga with China. Remember, in 2012, in 2013 we filed the case, and in 2016 we won, but China has recently submitted its baseline claims only just November. So in other words, they're trying to clear up these of course claims by the Philippines by of course submitting their own uh, legal documentation. But we'll see what would be the decision of the higher courts when it comes to that. No, but nonetheless, we are still confident that the Philippines um, has the right to the Scarborough Shoal based from historical, ethnographical, and legal basis.
Is it not also true, though, Chester, that according to the tribunal in The Hague or the PCA, that China also historically they did agree that China was or Chinese fishermen were also fishing in that area historically, and there and because the PCA does not really award territory, right? So
Right, agree.
yeah. So how
Now
do we?
remember that the Scarborough Shoal is a traditional fishing ground. So I mean to say, it's not only Filipino fishers who fish there. No, you have also other nationalities like the Chinese, Taiwanese, Vietnamese, Malays, and Indonesians. So meaning to say that this is like an international shoal or water where any fisher folks can fish. So I think that's the reason why um, when China tried also to of course no assert their sovereignty or their narrative when it comes to the Scarborough Shoal by stating that they have control to the Scarborough Shoal, and they are not allowing the Filipino fishers and other fisher folks from other countries. That became a remorse for many countries. We resisted it because we know that it's a traditional fishing ground for many nationalities.
Okay. In terms of AFP modernization, we
Mm,
heard the president today. I'm not sure if you caught that.
yeah,
In the midst of, the Coast Guard, all the ships that got rammed, we really, really need it. The budget, tinanggal, binalik. We have
yeah.
external threats growing. The tensions now, dati, Scarborough and Ayungin, now it's like in Escoda, Half Moon, o Hasang-Hasang. We're
Right.
hearing new rocks or features that now have the Chinese presence as well. Is there any way that you're seeing that the government can fast track modernization?
Oh, well, let's put into context first, no? 2000, 2000, I think that was in 1990s during the time of FER when we have the modernization law of the AFP. And then it was revived during the time of Benigno Aquino in 2012. Then, luckily, it was supported also by former President Duterte and the current President Bongbong Marcos, the modernization program of the AFP. And we have heard from President Bongbong Marcos the Re-Horizon 3, meaning to say that there is an extension of the third leg of the modernization program, revitalized modernization program of the AFP. And after that, during his stint also, we have seen the modernization of the Coast Guard. And now the police and other defense and security sectors are also asking for modernization program from the government. So in other words, it's a holistic process. It's not only the AFP that has a priority for the modernization, but also the Coast Guard and the uniformed personnel organizations like the Fire BGMP and also the Philippine National Police. So you see that holistic. And then from that modernization law, we have shifted to the Philippine Territorial Defense because that has been the goal of the armed forces to defend the territorial integrity and national sovereignty of the country. And with the belief that the Philippine National Police will now cover or will now become responsible for the internal security of the country, because the AFP for 5 decades they've been doing dual role for internal security and external defense. And then the third step for that would be the self-reliance defense posture. The posture law that has been signed recently by the president would help us to become future ready, more independent, and stronger. Because the dream is to make our armed forces a world-class armed forces, at least in the region. No, so that has been the goal, but of course, 3 years, 3 more years to go for the Marcos Jr. administration. I think even it's nice that he's been supporting this modernization program, but I know that looking at the current state of the armed forces right now and their defense and security sector, it's still a continuing program. It's a work in progress. The next president and future presidents of the Philippines will still have to work on the modernization of the armed forces and the defense and security sector. And we need the defense posture law to build a stronger indigenous defense complex, because otherwise, even if you do the modernization program of the armed forces, if and you have the territorial defense, if you don't have your own local or indigenous industrial complex for defense industry, then I think the modernization program will fail. So you see how complex and holistic this undertaking, and it's a work in progress, basically.
Right. So
Chester,
basically, we really have to be patient when it comes to that. I mean,
Right.
that takes years.
What about Chester, accepting help from aid, subsidy from allied nations? Do you think that's a good direction to take for this government? There's perhaps pros and cons. What do you think?
Okay, I think it's a misunderstanding or misinterpretation, misconstruction from our neighboring countries when they say that if we are an ally of the United States, they give uh, free defense assets or equipment for the Philippines. No, there's no free lunch. In other words, the Philippines has been buying or procuring defense assets, no, be it are from the Army, Air Force, or Navy, and the Coast Guard. So we're buying it basically. We recently bought BrahMos missiles from India and Russia. And then by 2026, the Philippines will become the biggest operator of Black Hawk in the world. And then we've been developing also, there's a dream for having a submarines for the Philippines. So those are big dreams for the country. And of course, to leave the internal security to the Philippine police, we're hoping that they will have their own strategy, and the AFP will focus now on the external defense. And lately, China has been irritated with the Typhoon missile uh, lent by the U.S. In the Philippines, where they have placed it in Batanes in northern frontier, basically. So meaning to say, um, we have to be very good and skillful in doing shopping list for the modernization program of the armed forces. This is not only about procuring or buying the best equipment, but at the same time, you have to train your human resource. You have to train your soldiers, pilots, and the submariners and the coast guardians and the policemen. So you have to develop the hard and soft hardwares, the hardware and the software basically. So and at the same time, it should align to your strategy doctrines and manuals, because at the end of the day, if you just keep on buying and it doesn't align to your strategy, then it's going to be a failure for the Philippines. Remember, these are people's money. We are using taxes in buying those expensive armaments from strategic partners and allies. And what is nice about this one, the Philippines has recently diversified also its procurement process. We're not only buying from the United States lately, we've been buying from India, from European countries, and South Korea, and also with Japan. So you see the diversification now because of globalization. No, but hopefully, our dream is not to buy so much, because modernization does not mean that you have to buy everything from your friends, from your strategic partners or allies. You have to build your own independent and indigenous industrial complex. That's the most sophisticated and intelligent action that would come from our government to support our own local industries. That's the reason why we want intelligent Filipino scientists, engineers, and IT people who would help us in this in developing local defense industries to elevate the defense posture of the Philippines through the self-reliance defense posture.
Okay, well, Chester, I guess we'll see no, kung ano mauuna ang self-reliance natin when it comes to defense and equipment regarding defense, or yung self-reliance natin pagdating sa production ng sarili nating rice, right? So it's a race that we are, of course, all looking forward to and monitoring. But for tonight, thanks so much for talking to us here on The Big Story, Maritime Security Expert Chester Cabalza. Maraming salamat.
Well, up next, a farmers group is asking the Department of Finance on what happened to the subsidy they should have received from the government's move to reduce the tariff on imported rice. We'll be speaking to Sinag when we return. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
The Department of Agriculture's Rice for All program seems to have affected market prices. Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano shares this observation as the Department of Agriculture inspects the implementation of the program in Pasay City Public Market.
Dati po, talagang mataas, 16 pesos plus. Pero ngayon makakakita po kayo ng 50 na lang.
Now, under the Rice for All program, everybody, regardless of status, can buy well-milled rice sourced by the government at 40 pesos per kilo. Initially, these were only available in Kadiwa stores, but now even public markets and train stations have them, prompting commercial sellers to lower their price for well-milled rice stocks from 47 up to 42 pesos per kilo.
May 40 na sa labas. Ayun. Para masabayan din po. Hanggang doon na lang po talaga. Kapag binaba pa, wala na talagang kikitain.
Well, not only that, starting Monday, the DA is also planning to start selling cheaper rice in city halls in Metro Manila. And the agency believes rice prices could still be lowered if the National Food Authority, or NFA, is given once again the authority to sell, which was removed when the rice tariffication law was enacted in 2019.
If we have the powers back sa NFA, definitely mapababa pa ang presyo. Kasi pwede na kaming mamili sa farmer, tapos diretso na kami na magmimil at diretso na sa palengke, wala na middleman.
Still on rice, one farmers group says that they have yet to receive the government subsidies due to them from the reduced tariff on imported rice. Recall that under President Bongbong Marcos's Executive Order 62, the tariffs for imported rice were cut to 15% from 35% in a bid to temper price hikes. The Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura or SINAG says that the government's tariff cut on rice imports took away funding for the purchase of additional farming implements and direct aid to farmers. According to SINAG, farmers should have received some 13.3 billion pesos from the government. Let's unpack this move some more with Mr. Jason Cainglet. He is the Executive Director of SINAG. Jason, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Ms. Shawn and Ms. Risa and to all our televiewers.
I think, Jason, you heard naman the report. I'm sure you've also received the news, right? The amendment of the Rice Tariffication Law, RA 12078 to be exact. What was your initial reaction? Because I did see your statement to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's what we've been saying all along, that we don't need to reduce tariffs if we want to lower rice prices. There are many initiatives, there are many efforts, there are many programs, including the one that you just shared, the Rice for All program of the DA. These are initiatives that we are supporting because you don't need to resort to reducing tariffs if you want to lower rice prices. It's been 6 months since EO 62 was signed by the president, and all the news the past few days indicate that it did not lower prices, and instead Congress and even some of our regulatory agencies are looking at what happened, at why did rice prices did not decrease despite the tariff reduction.
Okay. So, bale ganito yan, no? Let's just, for the benefit of everyone who might not have been following this from the beginning, 6 months ago, EO 62 was passed, so they lowered the tariffs from 35 to 15%. At that time, all-time high, no? Yung mga imported rice natin, because the top exporting countries were also going through some difficulties, so they wanted to hoard their stock, right? Right now, 6 months later, we're seeing amendments to the Rice Tariffication Law. However, your statement has kind of brought up certain things, right? So from those tariffs, a big chunk is supposed to go to the RCEF, right? Or the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, of which SINAG is saying that 13.3 billion pesos, this is at least from before pa, have not made it to the farmers yet. Can you confirm that and tell us what happened?
Yeah.
What happened to the money?
Let me clarify that the 13.3 billion is the figure presented by Customs as the foregone revenues. Ibig sabihin, ito yung hindi na-collectang taripa because we reduced the tariff to 15%. So if the tariff was not reduced, we would be getting this extra 13.3 billion. So that's what we're saying. If EO 62 was not effective, tariff reduction did not reduce price, nalugi pa gobyerno, nalugi consumers, nalugi farmers. So what we're saying is yung commitment or yung pangako ni dating ni current DOF Secretary Ralph Recto to give the difference, or to give kung ano man yung kulang na nawala sa taripa because of the tariff reduction, ibabalik niya sa RCEP. RCEP is the depository of the tariffs collected from rice import. So what we're saying now is we hope that Secretary Recto will make do his promise of returning the 13.3 billion, and the farmers are committed that if we get that 13.3 billion by March or April, rice prices will really go down by 40 to 45 pesos without reducing tariffs and without losing money from government. Government's losing money because of tariff reduction. So that's how we say na yung 13.3 billion that was lost because of tariff reduction, ibalik lang sa ating farmers. And remember, reducing 35% to 15% is 60% reduction. So talagang malaki yung nawala sa makakolekta ng ating gobyerno because of EO62.
Okay. Your thoughts, no, and your feelings, your sentiment, at least of the rice production sector on RA 12078 or the amended RTL. Of course, it looks good on paper. You're supposed to get from 10 billion, it's now 30 billion. I expect that, that's good news. But the question is it really, or is it just PR?
No, it is good news. For the last 6 years, the rice industry we've been getting funds from RCEP, but that was 10 billion. Then excess funds would also go to the industry, so it became 15, 20. But because of the amount and the volume of our imports, we calculated, and in fact, we were one of the few groups that proposed to increase the RCEP funds from 10 billion to 30 billion. And if we're getting 30 billion next year, it will truly help the industry because we've already allotted funds from RCEP. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya i-allocate pa lang, automatic na yung allocation under the 30 billion. That is, a percentage would go to seed production, another percentage would go to the mechanization, another percent would go to training of our farmers, including loans, and then cash, direct cash, would also be provided to our farmers. So in short, talagang nakinabang ang industry sa RCEP, and kaya nga the system, the program is going very good. Kaya lang we were really surprised na nag-issue ng EO62 that really derailed the efforts of everyone, private sector and government, to really make our rice industry more competitive, meaning we can reduce prices, we can reduce cost of production to the benefit of our consumers. Talagang nasira yung ating mga plano in the last 5 years because of EO62.
Well, Jason, since you mentioned already being competitive, sa consumers naman, di ba, kung local or imported, I don't think it really matters, basta yung quality is there. To us, describe how is local rice faring compared to imported rice ngayon?
Yung quality, there's no question because local is more fresh, unlike yung imported kung saan nanggalingan, and you don't know kung anong mga hinalo dyan. Yung local kasi talagang from farm, minili siya, naging bigas, binenta. So freshness and quality talagang lamang ang local. Kaya lang, lagi tayong at a disadvantage because imported rice, since they are cheaper, lower yung cost of production nila, and their governments, Vietnamese government, Thai government, Indian government, they are really supporting and subsidizing yung kanilang sector. Talo lang tayo sa presyo sa ngayon, but not quality and not standard and not freshness. So one way to really reduce prices is to lower yung cost ng pagtatanim mo ng palay. Right now kasi, cost to produce palay is 18 pesos per kilo. If you are able to reduce it by 15 pesos or 14 pesos, and farmers can sell the palay at 19 to 20 pesos, we can easily sell rice at 38 pesos without resorting to imports, without resorting to tariff reduction. As long as we lower the cost to produce rice, we increase our productivity. Right now, it's just 4,000 for 4 tons per hectare. If we can make it 4.5 tons per hectare, you increase the yield, you lower the cost of production, we can easily sell rice by 35 pesos in 1 to 2 years. So that's really the long term, and we were really surprised and we were really taken aback by the decision to implement EO62. Otherwise, we could have been enjoying much lower rice prices by this time.
Okay. The whole thing, last question, no, Mr. Kainglet, we are running out of time. Pero a few days ago, or baka last week to, no, narinig ko si DA Secretary Kiko Laurel, sabi niya he's hoping to break 40. And you're saying we could have done this before. One other big concern, and I'm not sure if that EO really addressed this or this new law really addressed this, the amended RTL. Kamusta naman yung lagay ng mga smugglers? Can we break 40? Are the smugglers still there? Because this new amended law allows for stronger regulatory powers for the DA. They can now inspect warehouses, etc. So your thoughts lang on that?
Actually, we have two recently enacted laws. One is the amended RTL, and one, which is more important, is the anti-agricultural economic sabotage law. Yun talagang mas positive, mas kumbaga may power ang government talagang pasukin ng mga warehouses. And remember, these are economic sabotage, meaning to say these are non-bailable crimes. Makasuhan ka, kahit nililitis ang kaso, wala pang conviction, hindi ka pwede magpiyansa, you'll end up in jail. What we've been saying all along is that makasample lang tayo, maybe one or two of these personalities, para naman baka matakot yung mga gumagawa pa ng mga economic sabotage sa agriculture sector. Remember, hindi na siya smuggling, nandiyan ng profiteering, hoarding, cartel, all this illicit trade. With these twin new laws, we're hoping that baka this time, meron naman tayong makaso at makonvict para naman makinabang ang ating mga farmers and consumers sa murang bigas in the end.
Kami rin, no, nag-aabang na may masampulan nga nung mga batas na iyon. But for now, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. That was CNAG's Executive Director, Jason Caininglet. Maraming salamat po.
Well, up next, the official list of senatorial candidates for the 2025 midterm polls is out. Who made it to the final cut? The details when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
You're still watching the big story here on One News. From 184 senatorial aspirants who filed their certificates of candidacies last October, the COMELEC, or Commission on Elections, has trimmed it down to 66. Chairman George Garcia said the initial list of 66 candidates has been finalized after 117 other aspirants considered nuisance candidates were removed. Garcia adds they have yet to receive 117 that were disqualified. Among those who made it to the final list of candidates is jailed preacher Apollo Kibuloy. The printing of ballots will commence on January 6, and the names of candidates will be listed in alphabetical order. Of the 66 final senatorial candidates, only the top 12 will make it to the Senate.
Now, before we go, here's our big picture tonight. The bar exams results are out, and this year, the University of the Philippines has another top-notcher. Kyle Christian Tutor led this year's passers with an 85.77% score. Second is Maria Cristina Ancieto from Ateneo de Manila with an 85.54%. And third is Gerald Rojas of Angeles University Foundation with an 84.35% score. The remaining top 10 passers were also from UP.
You know, when I saw the list kanina, I was zooming it in because I'm like, mag-aaway na naman mga taga-UP tsaka mga taga-Ateneo. Kung sino mas marami na graduates made it to the top-notcher list. Yeah.
Maraming taga-UP. Wow.
Pero marami rin taga-Ateneo because I think they've published the top 20. So medyo marami naman.
Well, congratulations to all the
everybody.
passers. Right.
You know, it was a big percentage, almost 40% passing.
Nice.
3,900 plus out of 10,000. Who took the bar exam. So congratulations to all our new lawyers.
Wasn't an easy feat. Congratulations. Well, that's the show for us tonight. Reminding everyone, it's 12 days before Christmas.
We are na-stress bigla. We are One News, all sides, all the time. We should be changing our song now to 12 Days of Christmas, starting tonight.
But I like the song.
It is. It is.